So in the last class, we actually saw how we are going to do this. Okay, and we were able to achieve that. So let's say we want to actually add elements to this. Okay, so let me just delete everything here and no such thing as this. And equally delete whatever that I had here. Okay, so I'm going to introduce us to another thing called createElement. createElement. Okay, we are going to learn how do we create an element and even attributes. How am I going to create attributes and create an element of an attribute? Okay, so let's say I want to create a section. I will now say I can call it section. I can give it another name. I can say concept equal to document dot create elements section. So the name of the element I want to create is section. So, but it doesn't just create it. I need to tell it where I want it to place this element. I have to navigate and move to my element so I'm seeing what is really happening. Okay. So we actually see what is happening here very well. So I want it to be inside the body element. So I need to check that body and say body to be equal to documents dot get elements, but because it already exists, so I will just get elements or query selector. I'll just use query selector. It's much easier for me. Query selector dot. Okay, so I have selected body, right? So just to be sure that I have my body selected. Okay, so if I just do something like body dot style dot background color to be equal to, maybe I can just say #FF0, and I will actually have that as yellow color, but please not just sure that I actually selected it. Okay, so I want this section to be inside this body. I want this section to be inside this body. So I'm just going to say body dot the element name, because that is what I call the element. But if I call it another time, I'm going to use what I call it. Dot append. I'm going to use append. Okay, so I will say append what? I want to append section into it. Append set. That is the name I called it. Okay, so if I navigate here to my elements, which I'm actually at the element section, so I can see that the section exists. It is lying there within my element. Okay, so I can do the same thing to create. Can do the same thing to probably create a heading. Can call it a heading, and the element that I'm creating is H1. H1. Okay, so I can create a heading and it is H1. All right, so and I want this H1 to be part of that section. So I can say sec dot append child, and I call it heading. Okay, append child to be heading. All right, so meaning that I can actually say heading dot text contents. I can put a text saying this is within a JS file. So I will have that appearing there. This is within a JS file. So if I open it, I will actually see then that I have the body element. Inside the body element, there's a section. Inside the section element, there's a H1. So using append chart, I'm able to create that. Okay. So everything that I've been doing with my HTML, I can actually do them in my JS. So I can also decide to create a class for that. Okay. So it's called heading dot set attributes. Set attribute. So what attribute do I want to create? I want to create an attribute of class. And what value do I want to give it? I want to give it a value of food. Okay. So this will make my H1 to have a class attribute inside it with a value of. So if I open my body elements, I can see inside my body element, there is a section. I open the section, there's a heading there with a class of food. All right. So I can try to target that class of fruits, and I see const, can call it const, food, can call it fruits to be equal to document dot get element by class name, get element by class name that is food. Okay, so can now say food 0 dot style dot I hope I'll be able to get this border bottom to be equal to maybe 5 pixel solid blue, that kind of thing. Voila, I'm able to get that. So telling the border bottom to be 5 pixels solid blue. I can do my style, I can do all those things within my CSS. Okay. But the idea of DOM manipulations is not for us to be doing these things like this, but we want to do it interactively. All right. So we'll be looking at that. If we keep learning more functions, more things, more methods, learn about arrays, learn about loops, we'll be able to know how we can interactively change these things. Okay, so see you in the next class.